Welcome to Chamber Talk with North Orange County Chamber. I'm Andrew Gregson, and our guest today is Don Gascoigne, the founder of Ultra Estate Planning. Don, thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Don, it's obviously Don is a member of the Chamber, and you started in the estate planning business over 30 years ago. What first inspired you to start Ultra Estate Planning?
I found that I myself didn't know what was going on with estate planning. I have a family myself, and my wife early on was telling me that I needed to get a trust for us. We needed to get, some documents put together, to protect the family. And I didn't realize that it was so important until I, went to work for a company that provided this type of service. And it was in Northern California. And we worked with groups, large groups of individuals, and we provided trusts and wills, power of attorney documents, everything to protect the estate and the individual, from the wrong thing happening to them, an accident, illness, so on and so forth. And I just saw how important it was, and it really struck a chord with me how much of an impact that I could have on people's lives and show them how to retire worry-free and eliminate all the guesswork. And
you have multiple different services that you provide today. You mind sharing a few, what they are?
I don't mind at all. We've been doing this for a long time, so we've actually added to our services over the years when we find the need. And the needs are always very apparent because they stick out like a sore thumb. One of the things that we do is we provide all of the estate planning documents, which is, wills and trusts and power of attorney. That stuff protects you from the system, really, because the system is set up to take your money when you die. So the trust avoids probate, and the power of attorney documents allow the person to name and direct somebody. If they can't act for themselves, they can have somebody act for them, as opposed to hiring an attorney and paying them $400 an hour to go over and water the plants and feed the cat. So we actually set up a whole system based upon what people need, not what we needed to sell or what we could make the most money on. It was based upon the client's needs. And we found, throughout the life, you don't need the same thing at 30 that you do at 70. So it is a custom type of a program that we put together for the member, for the individual, for the family. We do retirement savings plans. We show people how to not lose their money, that they've accumulated through their whole life. We show them how to take market risk out of the equation. We also show them how to maximize their pension. If they have a pension, we can show them how to perpetuate it for generations if they want. Anyways, yeah, the pension maximization is an amazing thing that you can use. I mean, everybody who gets a pension, if you're in the labor union arena, or there's all kinds of pensions out there. But if you have something that you've worked for, and the company is going to give you X amount of dollars per month for the rest of your life, and then if you're married, they actually have a system where that can be carried on. She gets a lesser amount once the principal person dies. But if you are healthy and you are a non-smoker, you can use insurance products in order to really replace that pension income when you die, because we can generate a death benefit that provides a lump sum benefit to the family, and they can simply live off the interest, as opposed to a pension that would go away when the second spouse dies.
Right. Now, looking through this, one of the main things you do is estate planning program, and unexpected events may happen to anyone at any time.
Yes.
So how does the revocable living trust safeguard one's assets and protect the family?
Well, the revocable living trust is an instrument. It's a legal instrument that will hold title to assets. And so what the person does that sets the trust up is they name a successor trustee to distribute the assets when they're gone to the beneficiaries that they've also designated in this document, and they've funded the trust with all of their assets. So when the time comes, when the person passes away, it's not necessary to go through a probate procedure, which is what people go through that don't have a trust, and it costs them dearly. It can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars if you have way too much money. And the Revocable Living Trust also doubles up the exemption for federal estate death taxes from $11 million to $22 million right now. It might have gone up,
Obviously, having a living trust, when a successor trustee passes away, then it goes into, what do they call it? You call it the estate settlement, or otherwise known as trust administration. Who's responsible for that, and how do you help the person who's responsible?
That's a good question, because that is a critical moment in the whole process, which is the transfer of assets from one generation to the next. So what happens is the document is prepared. The parents pay for the estate settlement program, at the time that they set up the trust, and when the parents pass away at the death of the second spouse, the kids will get this document and they won't know what to do with it. They actually have the potential to mess up the estate, by cashing in qualified plans early and creating a tax issue, by fighting with each other and getting in lawsuits. All of this is stuff that is avoidable, and we saw this as an issue, and we implemented the estate settlement program because of that. So what we're able to do is we're able to go in after mom and dad have passed away, and we're able to hold the hands of the successor trustee who's responsible for distributing the estate to the beneficiaries. So we actually do all the paperwork, we do all the affidavits, we get the EIN number, we actually do everything that needs to be done legally for that successor trustee. All they have to do is sign the paperwork, and we can settle an estate in as little as 180 days.
Wow, and I'm assuming it's not always as simple as you'd like. What happens if there are complications? How do your firm help them then?
We have a staff of professionals that can solve any tax issue. I mean, we've had clients that haven't paid their taxes for years and years and years, and we're able to clean that up. We're able to, we have elder law attorneys that can solve any disputes. We can put together agreements, for kids that may want to do things a little bit different from what mom and dad. One kid might want to live in the house while the other one doesn't, and so the one kid will pay the other kid, some type of rent or some type of consideration for it. But it's probably, if it's not the most important, it's probably close to the most important thing that we do, because it is, it's a tough time. Kids have just lost their parents. There may be some jealousy between the kids. There may be one kid that thinks he's getting more than the other, or maybe one of those distributions that's not shared equally amongst all of them. And then you just have to explain to the kids and figure it all out. And
once, let's say, kids, we're saying kids, they're probably adults, possibly in their 60s, right?
Yeah, they're 60 by the time they're doing this job. Yes.
If they don't have trust themselves, in your expertise, do they generally think, oh, that was a good idea, I need to do it, or are they still, no, I don't need it now? Or?
Well, that's been one of the real benefits, and we realize that when we meet with the rest of the family, they're going to need to do exactly the same thing that mom and dad did, because they're inheriting their assets. So if they don't already have a trust, then what we do is we actually have a little program we put together for the family to make sure everybody's going to get a trust after that. So we can literally lose one client and pick up four more at that table and still deal with the same assets that we were dealing with. We've had clients. We're in our third generation of clients already. Wow.
So you just still keep protecting those same assets over and over again.
Listen, it's the circle of life, and the people that were kids when I first got in this business, when I say kid, I mean, a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, and now they're 80.
Right.
And so what happens when you're an 80-year-old, it's tough making through that decade. The 80s is a tough one, but we are able to shepherd that whole family through it, and we're able to provide them some comfort and provide them some expertise so they don't have to worry about it. They can actually concentrate on the emotional side of things as opposed to the financial side of things.
Moving forward, when is the best time to start preparing for pension maximization, and what are the consequences of not preparing?
Well, pension maximization is simply just taking what someone has worked so hard for and showing them a better way to do it. So if you, let's say you're retiring, you have a wife, and you want to take care of her too. So if you go first, you want to make sure there's some benefit left for her. So that's joint with survivor option. If you take the single life payout, when you die, there's nothing left for your spouse. So really, most of the spouses, what do you think they choose, Andrew? Which one?
I think they choose to...
It's a joint with survivor option,
spouses,
yeah. So anyways, they do choose that, but it's not always the best choice. It's really, it's seldom the best choice if you are healthy and a non-smoker, because we can actually put a life insurance contract together on that pensioner, and if he were to die, the spouse or the surviving spouse, the wife, instead of getting that benefit from the pension, that survivor benefit from the pension, they actually get a lump sum of money from the insurance company, a death benefit of, let's say, $1 million, and they're able to take that $1 million and put it into, we actually can show them how to earn enough interest on that will equal the joint with survivor option payout. And so she's going to get the same money that she did before.
Right.
If she doesn't ever touch the principal balance, that just goes on to the kids. It goes to the next generation.
Wow.
And so the kids will inherit this $1 million that was generated from this pension that mom and dad are already dead. That pension would have died along with them.
Right.
So what you're able to do is you're able to perpetuate that pension. If the kids don't spend it, they can pass it on to the next generation and the next generation, and so on and so forth. So it really is a way to perpetuate the pension if you don't spend that principal balance.
Is that tax-free money?
It's a tax-free death benefit.
Oh,
yes.
wow, okay.
From any insurance benefit, as far as life insurance goes, it's a tax-free death benefit. And the interest that it generates will be taxable, though.
Okay.
So that's all taken into consideration in trying to get a payment that's equal or greater than what would be coming from the normal pension that person would choose, that joint with survivor option. So we have guys choose the single life payout, which is the most money you can get from your pension. And then we take the difference in the payment between that single life payout and the joint with survivor option. And those are the monies we use to buy the insurance contract. So that guy is not out any money.
Right.
We're just repositioning it so that it's more effective. And it can be $1 million difference. It can be a $2 million difference. It just depends upon how long, you have those monies in play for.
And then is that where the insurance side of the business rolls into?
That's where the insurance rolls in, because we're able to set guys up. When they're younger, we want to get them when they're healthy. You want to ensure your insurability, and if you don't do that, and you wind up with a diabetes or a heart condition or cancer or something later on, you're not going to be able to get the adequate amount of coverage, because they'll double the premium on you. So you won't be able to buy the death benefit that you need for your spouse if you are a smoker. So we actually have some guys that quit smoking so that they can do the program.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's good. It's benefit there too. They get to live longer.
And in fact, whilst we're sort of talking about being healthy, you also help people qualify for Medi-Cal.
Yes.
You want to share a bit about that, because you've got a phenomenal program nobody else offers.
We have a proprietary program set up for Medi-Cal qualification, and it was invented, again, out of necessity, just like all of our programs. We try to fill the need, we see it out there. But we actually have been doing Medi-Cal planning for a long, long time, but they've changed the game on us. The insurance companies they started making their contracts assignable. and where they used to be unassignable, non-assignable, and unavailable to Medi-Cal. So we could actually use those contracts to safe harbor money. The insurance companies stopped doing that, so we had to rethink our drink, and I didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't really want to sell long-term care insurance because I think it's not a good deal. So I just was actually on a flight up in Santa Rosa, and I couldn't wait to get out of the plane so I could call my Medi-Cal regulation specialist, my attorney, and my CPA, and see if this thing would actually work. None of them said it would work, but it works.
But it works. So for those listeners, because not everybody's as educated in this field, what is unassignable? What is the difference between assignable, unassignable?
Okay, so in the old days, we used to use annuity contracts that had you had the ability to annuitize the contract so that only 1% would be left over at the end of the contract. The rest of it was going to be a stream of payments that's coming out. So it was no longer an asset. It was no longer $100,000. It was actually a stream of payments. That's at $100 or $100,000 broken down into monthly payments.
Right.
So that's what made it unavailable to Medi-Cal, because they have an asset test and they have an income test. And the community spouse, the well spouse at home, is allowed to keep an unlimited income.
Okay.
So we were able to shift the asset via income over to the healthy spouse using these annuity contracts, which are guaranteed principal and interest accounts, by the way. We were able to shift the asset, but once they made these contracts unassignable, or once they made these contracts assignable, that meant that Medi-Cal could come in and lien these assets. They could disqualify you from your public benefit. Oh,
wow.
Because you have this contract, and they can actually attach it. So it's not protected.
Oh.
Once they made these changes, and they made these changes because class action lawsuits, they were just dealing with them all the time.
Wow.
And we saw that happening too, and it's too bad, because it actually was a very effective use. I mean, we used them for years and years. But the new planning that we have is even better than that, because you don't have to liquidate your assets in order to fund that annuity contract. You actually can keep your Hawaii house and your vacation home or your family farm or your antique car or whatever. All of these assets are considered to be available to Medi-Cal outside of your primary residence, one house, one car. For a married couple, I think it's about $130,000 that you can keep, and if you're a single person, that's only $2,000 that you can keep.
Right.
So they have these property limitations, and all we do is we just try to fit people we take assets from one box to the other and make them exempt.
If somebody receives some type of settlement money, they're not a client, they can still call you, and you can possibly help them lengthen that money, right? Or keep it for a...
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the system that's set up right now isn't the best system for those individuals, because the way the system is set up right now is the attorneys hand off the file to predisposed individuals who may or may not have the best interest for the client at heart, but it is all prescribed by the courts. So those entities, won't get in trouble 10 years from now when that person runs out of money.
And the individual, though, has the right to pick up the phone and give Ultra a call, right? I mean,
it's their money. They can do whatever they want with it.
Right.
And I would definitely get a second opinion, even if it's not with Ultra. I would definitely get a second opinion on where that money's going to go, because you want to make sure that 10 years down the line, you're not having to move into the spare bedroom with your kids.
Right. I like that advice. That's very fair. So as we're wrapping up this podcast today, is there anything you'd like to add, or something that we've missed that you'd like to share?
Well, I always tell my clients, whether you use Ultra or whether you use, another provider, you need to go get a trust. If you own a house in California, if you have kids, if you have a wife and family, you need a trust, and you need documentation to have your estate avoid all the alligators. you need a power of attorney or a pour over will in order to name a guardian for your kids. Can you imagine? I mean, if I had to get a guardian for my kids, and we didn't want any of our family members as guardians. But that's who the courts would have sent our kids to.
Right.
But my wife's and my family, we didn't see any good candidates, and my parents were older, so we didn't want to put the kids with them. But I would say, go get some planning done. If you want free information, you can come to Ultra Estate Planning. You don't even have to use us. Mm-hmm. We're the best option available out there, I think, because we've been doing this for so long, and we don't get any complaints, and we don't generate any problems for people. As a matter of fact, we work with some of the largest labor unions in the country, and if you don't do the right job for them, if you don't do the right thing for them, you're not doing it for very long.
Right.
And so, we have the resources in order to allow you to educate yourself and protect your family from financial problems in the future. And if you do things smart, we can guarantee you a worry-free retirement financially. I mean, it's your job to take care of all the other stuff, but we can show you how to retire without worries and be able to go play golf and swim and go to the beach, go play tennis, whatever you want to do without thinking about, gee, I wonder how the market did today.
Yeah, that's a lot of peace of mind you're offering there, isn't it?
That's one of our catchphrases.
Oh, well, look at that. I didn't even know.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. Must have been thinking along the same lines. Well, hey, Don, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll visit nocchamber.com and select sign up for news at the top of the page and join our mailing list. For more interviews, visit chambertalk.podbean.com. It would be greatly appreciated if you could like, follow and share Chamber Talk.